Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. Here is what's coming up tonight. The stormwater tax has been revamped. What does that mean for Windsor property owners? Plus, with the U.S. election just over a week away, there's a push to get voters on this side of the border to register. And what exactly is a mammogram? Amy Dodge bravely steps into an exam room to find out. But let's begin with an early morning house fire. It not only destroyed a home, it's also erased a piece of local Black history. Jacob Barker reports.
The house that was destroyed by fire here earlier was of great significance to the Black community here in Windsor and in the country. It belonged to Alton C. Parker, who was Windsor's first Black police officer and Canada's first Black detective. He went on to become an organizer and activist. It was his childhood home.
Alton C. Parker was incredible. I mean, he's one of the 3 people in Windsor of African descent who have a park named after them, and he's someone who's really recognized nationally, especially by those who study Black history, activism, and involvement in law enforcement.
It also served as a recruiting station for the No. 2 Construction Battalion, which was created in 1916 as a way for African Canadians who had been barred from other ways of serving in the First World War to do so.
It was a really important site, this house. This was one of Canada's most successful recruiting stations for that battalion. Over 150 men of African descent signed up for the First World War right at this house. I am so sad to see it in this state. I mean, let's be honest, this house had kind of fallen on some hard times recently. It wasn't quite what it had been before, as many properties no longer are. But the significance is well understood in our Black community.
Davis says that this is a site on the McDougall Corridor walking tour, a tour that shows Black history in the area here. She says that they are going to meet to figure out how they're going to continue to include this site in that tour. As far as the fire goes, the fire chief does say that the structure is a tear down and the office of the fire marshal continues to investigate the cause. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
It's not often that taxpayers encounter a cut in service fees, but that's exactly what is in the works for Windsor homeowners. They'll see savings on their water bills starting next year. Chris Ensing explains why.
The City of Windsor just made a massive change to your NWIN bill. It means homeowners will save money, but large commercial property owners, they're going to see a significant increase. It's going to look different next year, but it means more money in your pocket and more money for flooding prevention. Here's how it works out.
Let's look at the average water bill in Windsor. Right now, homeowners pay a fixed wastewater surcharge, and then the water you use. Next year, both of those fees are going down, and you'll see a new fixed charge for stormwater. The average monthly bill goes down by about $6 or $70 over the year. And here's a line from the mayor you can hold on to when that bill comes out.
The vast majority, 99.99% of homeowners in the city will see an overall reduction on their NWIN bill based on what they pay today once we implement this system.
Now, business owners with huge parking lots are going to pay a lot more. And this takes us back to how the city pays for the infrastructure used to prevent flooding.
This orange bucket full of water. This is your 2016, 2017 massive rainstorms. The city loves it when the water comes over and falls on top of the grass. That's there to absorb the water. It doesn't go into the drainage system. But this is what they hate, when it goes down on the concrete. Now, all this water is running towards the drainage system. It goes into the sewer there. Now it's into the city's infrastructure. It's costing the city to process it, so they're shifting this calculation. People with impervious area, concrete parking lots, they're gonna pay a lot more under this system.
The city still says many small or medium businesses will save money. Large malls are going to see a big jump in their bills. So will Windsor's Port Authority, even though most of their water goes directly into the Detroit River.
On December 31st, we pay $300. On January 31st, we pay $301,000. That is a sticker shocker beyond comprehension.
That includes a 40% credit because the city doesn't process the port's stormwater. Other cities are making the same move across North America, including Hamilton, who will look at a 90% credit for companies that don't push water into the drainage system. Windsor is not budging on the newly approved rates.
I think at the end of the day, this is all about fairness and equity and making sure that residents are being charged appropriately. Right now, they're being charged too much. These new businesses, Home Depot, Costco, places with large parking lots that are high contributors to the storm sewer system are going to start paying their fair share.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at our weather. Colette, this past weekend, it's getting colder, obviously, and we finally pulled out all the plants in our backyard. The garden is finally empty. We're a little bit late in the season to do it, but we're finally coming to grips with the reality of the chill. The chill is here.
Yes, and then it's going to go again.
Yeah, of course. The roller coaster continues. It's Windsor.
That's what happens, right? There is the irony. You got everything sorted out, and here comes the heat again. But obviously, we know with some of the cooler nights we've had, yes, that vegetation has needed to be taken care of. So what's to come? Well, not quite 30s like you're seeing the heat here in the Midwest, but certainly some warmer temperatures, probably some mid-20s as soon as tomorrow. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. But that's with the change kind of in the wind flow. So we've got the winds more from the southeast right now, 15 degrees right now in Windsor and Chatham-Kent at 14, and Sarnia 13, 14 for London as well. You see that south to southeasterly flow. It was a little gusty for a couple hours earlier today, and other than that, it haven't been terribly strong, but they will get stronger overnight tonight, and we're going to find that tomorrow we're going to have some breezy conditions as well. So look out for that not only then, but even through tomorrow night and into parts of Wednesday. Because of that flow, though, that's going to allow those temperatures to really spike on us. So all kinds of sunshine today, a really nice way to get back into the work week or the school week with the sunshine, and a ridge of high pressure. But back to the west, there is an area of low pressure that's got this front attached to it, and that will eventually come in and cool things down. But we get about 3 days of mild conditions, so almost 2 warm fronts working here. So temperatures will bump up a little bit, even to portions of northern Ontario, but it's this real flow with the second warm front that you get the temperatures that are really going to be overperforming, shall we say, running about 15 degrees above seasonal. Now, along with that, we do have some rain showers to come through late overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. There could be a few embedded thunderstorms, so be aware of that. So wet in the morning, and then it should move through pretty quickly. Like I would expect within a couple of hours, 3 hours at the most, but probably less than that, it goes on through. Then we have a nice day in between where we get that sunshine with just some of this high thin cirrus cloud to deal with. And then Halloween comes, still mild, but we will likely start to see a few scattered showers kind of popping up. So trick-or-treaters need to be aware of that. We will see more significant amounts in the rainfall if we get some embedded thunderstorms, but otherwise it'll be very, very light and moves quickly. 24 tomorrow, 25 on Wednesday, and yes, breezy, yes, some spotty showers, but we are looking at 22 for the high on Halloween. And then after that, temperatures get closer to seasonal, and it's just kind of one day off here, but it is Saturday night that we set our clocks back. We fall back. So that reminder in there too.
Oh gosh, thank you for the reminder. I forgot that was coming.
I'll be doing that all week, so don't worry. You have time to remember.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Some X-ray and ultrasound technologists in Windsor, Essex and Chatham-Kent are still on strike. About 130 workers at Clear Medical Imaging walked off the job on Friday after the union and their employer did not reach an agreement. And this has forced patients with canceled appointments to look elsewhere. One company in the region says it's trying to keep up.
We're seeing just increased volume in phone calls of people wanting to book their appointments at some place. It's been challenging because we already had our patients that have been booked. So trying to find space, we are doing the best we can to accommodate everyone. My staff is telling me that patients are, yes, heightened anxiety, quite upset with the situation, and we totally understand. And just to be patient as we try to work to get them in.
Bell River Imaging says if your condition has gotten worse, you should speak with a doctor and consider going to the hospital. As for the strike at Clear Medical Imaging, it's unclear how much longer it will go on for. At this time, the union, Unifor Local 2458, says it's waiting to hear from the employer to resume negotiations. The U.S. election is just 8 days away, and with polls indicating the race is a dead heat, every vote especially matters, and thousands of those up for grabs are on this side of the border. Yesterday, volunteers hit the streets of Windsor to get out the American vote.
Hello, I'm David Shelton and I'm with votefromabroad.org. So what we're doing in this neighborhood is we're going door to door to give out information about how Americans can register to vote and request their ballots. We're doing this because we know that in Windsor there are well over 20,000 citizens of Windsor who are also U.S. citizens and have the right to vote there, as well as their adult children. That's a huge deal. You may recall that in 2016 election, the margin of victory was just 10,000 votes. And so everywhere where we can gather a few extra votes, is a good place to be. And that's where we are today here in Windsor. And they say the voter turnout for voters from abroad, including Windsor, is between 5 and 10%. It's minuscule. Roughly around, I heard ours here particularly was 8%. And so while that is in some ways discouraging, it also shows us that there's a huge area for improvement. Yes, we've been fairly strategic about it, as strategic as we can be with the limited data that we have. And so normally the canvassing in the States is very, very targeted. Usually it's registered Democrats, you have their name, you have information. But in our case, we're doing what we call cold knocking, where we're going just door to door. So we've tried to choose areas where we feel like there may be some Americans, sort of established neighborhoods or areas not too far from the tunnel and that kind of thing. And we've just done our best also to sort of sprinkle our efforts across the city with a few things like that in mind. We ran across a family of 4 who were enthusiastic and interested in voting but didn't know where to begin. And so we were able to offer them the information with our little door hanger that has a QR code and the website. But we do have people driving in from London and Waterloo, Hamilton. People are interested and they're coming to help us out here. It's really a critical time. I mean, this is a nonpartisan activity that I'm representing today, and so I don't want to get into partisan subjects. But obviously it's a stark contrast.
I'm Katerina Georgieva. And I'm Amy Dodge, the host of Windsor Morning. So we're here because I am over 40 and I now qualify for a mammogram without a doctor's note. And it made me realize now that I've qualified that I really don't know what a mammogram is. And I have a million questions like, does it hurt? How long does it hurt for? What are they able to tell me about my breast tissue just from a mammogram? So I think it's really important that we bring down the curtain. And I brought Katerina with me. Yeah, we're gonna figure it out together. So let's go.
Hi, my name is Mandra Matheru. I'm the owner of Bell River Imaging here in Bell River. So a mammogram is where they take your breast and squeeze it between 2 plates and shoot an x-ray through. We want to squeeze it so that we can get that x-ray going through to get a really good image to see what's going on.
Does it hurt?
It can be uncomfortable, yes, and with younger breasts, they're more dense. That can be painful because they have to squeeze it to almost being like flat as a pancake.
Awesome.
How are we feeling right now?
I'm so nervous, so nervous. I think, why am I nervous? I am nervous because I don't know how hard it's gonna, I don't know how bad it's gonna hurt.
It's gonna be okay.
I know. And then I think of the other people who have done this, thinking the same as me, and like their life completely changes. I know.
It's a little scary.
It is.
Hi, my name is Jill Jacob. I'm a mammography technologist here at Bell River Imaging.
How long have you been doing mammograms?
30 plus years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So things have changed a lot over 30 years.
They have, for sure.
And most recently going to the age 40. How do you expect that to change the type of people you'll see come in?
Oh, the numbers are going to increase dramatically and the wait times are going to increase, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to come around here and face that.
I'm too short.
No, you're perfect. Just like that.
You're perfect.
This arm's going to come out. This arm would come back.
This is really personal.
Yeah, it is. And then the compression.
How many boobs do you think you've touched over 30 years? that's as much?
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't hurt. It was tight, but breastfeeding hurts more.
So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So everybody that got screened for any mammogram at Bell River Imaging for the month of October gets a fun award.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think you're amazing for what you just did. Another part of taking us all on this journey today is also breaking the stigma about how we talk about our breasts. So first of all, thank you for talking about your breasts openly and taking us on this journey to acknowledging breastfeeding. How do you feel about talking about that?
I feel really vulnerable and I worry about being judged for different parts of it, but I think that's the whole problem. It's comfortable to not talk about it. It's comfortable to weigh the audience and sort of go with the norm. And I think it's really important because there is an entire population that's going through breast cancer treatment. And as women, we talk about our boobs all the time in the sense of breastfeeding and way shirts feel, and it's normal for us. And it needs to be normal in societal ways as well.
So here's to normalizing that, and here's to getting a mammogram if you're 40. I gotta give Amy one more shout out for that. That was such a brave thing to do with a camera in the room, and thanks for letting me tag along to teach us all about mammograms and getting the word out so that women over 40 can do what they can to protect their pumpkins. So stay with us, and after the break, we're gonna have international news for you. Stay with us. Welcome back. A new report from Food Banks Canada is revealing a concerning trend across the country. A high uptick in demand that is putting a strain on organizations that are already struggling. But we first look toward the Middle East, where an Egyptian proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza is being discussed.
I'm Sasha Petrusik, watching some peaceful moves in the conflict around Israel. Negotiations are supposed to get underway today in Qatar, in Doha, as the different sides get together to discuss an Egyptian proposal to come up with a ceasefire deal for Gaza. That would be the first time that the sides have gotten together really to talk about this since last August, and it's been difficult to get things going. This proposal is quite modest. Egypt is calling for a 2-day ceasefire, which would allow Hamas to release 4 Israeli hostages. There are about 100 who are still held in Gaza. And in exchange, Israel would increase the amount of aid allowed into Gaza, and it would release a certain number of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Not clear how many. Of course, all of that is on the table being discussed now or quite shortly. Egypt and Qatar are acting as mediators in all of this, along with the United States. Israel is there, represented by the head of Mossad, which is the intelligence agency here. And Hamas, well, it's not at the table, but it is being kept in the loop and consulted by Qatar and Egypt. The challenge here is that Hamas does not have a leader. Its leader was killed by Israeli forces about 2 weeks ago. That's Yahya Sinwar. So it's not clear who is speaking for Hamas or whether its positions from the last time around have changed. They were very adamant that all Israeli forces had to get out of Gaza before there could be any kind of a ceasefire deal. That was holding things up, but there may be other roadblocks now in the way as well. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The numbers of Canadians visiting food banks across the country continue to grow. They have nearly doubled in the last 5 years. That's according to a new report from Food Banks Canada. The increase is pushing some food programs to the brink, and some are having to cut back on what they can offer. CBC's Marianne Demain has more on what's being called a grim milestone.
The numbers were released this morning as part of the Hunger Count survey. That's an annual survey that uses data from Food Banks Canada's network, but also outside of it too, including hundreds of affiliate and independent food banks, all of the data taken from March of each year. But the data today really points to how many Canadians are relying on food banks and the pressure now put on the Canadian food banks all across the country. Looking at the numbers here, more than 2 million visits in March of 2024. That is 6% higher than the already record numbers that were recorded in March of 2023, and that's 90% higher than the numbers that were recorded in 2019. And that's why Food Banks Canada is saying that the number of monthly visits in March over the past 5 years have nearly doubled. Now, at this point, Food Banks Canada is saying that things like inflation, the lack of affordable housing, those are factors all contributing to Canadians now being pushed into not only poverty, but also food insecurity. And many of those visiting food banks are children. 1/3 are children. That amounts to close to 700,000 monthly visits to food banks as of March of 2024. More than 4 million meals and snacks that have been given out, all based on data from more than 2,500 food banks reporting.
We are seeing more and more new clients every week. There's not a day goes by that we don't get a new client.
It's been a struggle for sure. If we don't get it donated through Feed Nova Scotia or our local community, we have to purchase it.
Meanwhile, Food Banks Canada calling on the government to do more when it comes to income and social supports.
Some supports for the working poor, of course, so including a beefed up working income tax benefit and a reformed DI system, which is really key, especially for the recent uptick in unemployment rates we've been seeing. Immediately, however, we need to introduce a groceries and essentials benefit, and that would be a modified GST credit, and that would be targeted to those who are struggling in particular with the rising costs of living that we're seeing these days.
According to this survey, over the past 12 months, 30% of food banks ran out of food before they could meet the demand in their communities. Marianne Demain, CBC News, Toronto.
When we come back, we'll tell you about our new housing plan proposal from Pierre Poilievre. Stay with us. Pierre Poilievre is promising to eliminate the GST on new homes sold for under $1 million if his party wins the next federal election. The Conservative leader made the announcement this morning during a campaign-style event in Ottawa.
This will save about $40,000 on a new home of $800,000.
Poilievre says the plan will also spur the construction of an additional 30,000 homes in Canada every year. He also released a 6-minute-long video with details of the plan, but critics say his proposed tax cut will mostly help higher-income Canadians with housing costs. They also say developers may not even pass on the savings to buyers. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For more, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can also download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.